problems, whether El Nino is here or it's not here. It's either the water or the lack of water. So we want to have a balance throughout the country where we have the climate working for us. The winds, the water, the sun, the geothermal, and every other thing that comes from nature should be able to be mixed in such a way that it helps us solve our demand, but also go to a place where we have a resilient network.
My name is Augustine Makoha. I'm Professor of Energy Systems Engineering at Moi University. I'm also a safety champion in engineering, education, and practice. Today's webinar is about partnerships towards strengthening the safety and resilience of energy infrastructure system in Kenya. And we are joined by some of our stakeholders from the industry, the practitioners, and some experts who will be leading us through the discussions. Kenya as a country is vulnerable, or I would say is exposed to climate-related risks such as floods and storms. And these compromise the safety and resilience of our energy infrastructure systems, such as the power generation, transmission, and distribution systems, as well as our oil and gas pipeline networks. And the damage to these systems can have very severe consequences to our community, our environment, and even our economy. And that can disrupt so many of our critical services, like the hospitals, transport sector, and the rest. Therefore, this webinar will dive into transformative approaches towards developing solution approaches to address the challenge of safety and resilience in our energy infrastructure systems. So, like I mentioned, we will have experts who will be discussing with us, trying to dive into this and give us kind of approaches to be able to tackle this challenge. So we believe that at the end of this webinar, we should be able to catalyze the discussions around issues of policy, around issues of partnerships, around issues of skills that are needed to deliver and maintain our energy infrastructure systems safely. And also we shall be looking at maybe the financing options that are available to be able to support our infrastructure in the energy sector. So we have our chief panelist with us here, who will be able to introduce our other panelists and lead us and guide us into the discussions. So welcome, Engineer Hannes Muhongo.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And thank you, Professor Makoha, for that introduction of webinar today. And as you said, today we're going to look at the safety and resilience of our energy infrastructure in Kenya, and in the light of climate change and safety. So, as you said, my name is Hannes Muhongo. I'll be the moderator for the session, and mine is just to guide and maybe ask a few questions so that the panelists that we have here can be able to shed some light on where we are as a country with regards to our energy generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure in the face of climate change. Maybe just to make a comment as we start. The issue of climate change, I think, has been with us quite for some time now. And Kenya as a country, I would say, has really worked hard to be able to help the effort to be able to mitigate or reduce the impacts of climate change. However, despite the efforts we've made, and especially the big strides we've already made in the energy sector to contribute towards this effort to reduce climate change itself, and also if it happens to reduce the impact, it still remains that climate change is still happening, and for that reason, then we need to ask ourselves, where are we with our infrastructure in the event that this is going to happen. So we have a panel is drawn from across the sector, from the industry to government to academia, and this is a very rich panel that should be able to help us delve into these issues. I think to start us off, I'm going to give each one of the panelists present that is here and online to just make a self-introduction, tell us where you are in the energy sector, a bit of say your journey in the energy sector, and how the work that you've been through relates to the matters that we are discussing today, safety and resilience of the energy infrastructure in Kenya. So I will start on my immediate right, and then we'll pass it across. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Johannes. Thank you very much, Professor, for putting up this together. I think this is a very important discussion with the attention is getting at the moment. My name is Jonathan Butukime. I'm currently working with REREC, majorly focusing on renewable energy projects development. As an introduction, I have a chance to work in the energy sector, both oil and gas, obviously, and now the electricity or energy sector. So I think as we discuss this topic, then I will have a general overview of the energy sector broadly. Because then climate change it's an issue we must address. It is a risk now we must recognize as we build our energy projects. Going forward, then such discussion will go on and to chat the way the best way forward. Long enough to say much at the moment. We'll probably discuss more as the discussion goes on. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Faith Rome. I'm an engineer with Kenya Power. So as I sit here, I take great honor, even as I pass my appreciation to Professor Magoha and the team, for thinking about this webinar, and especially the topic of discussion, safety and resilience in the wake of the climate change, as a country, as a continent, and fully as a whole world. Different countries are grappling with this issue. We may say we are not badly off, but if you see your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't prepare your own buckets to switch off, to extinguish the fire when it comes to your house, then when the fire comes, you'll be overwhelmed. So I believe as Kenya, where we are preparing ourselves to not be found off guard, because you already have the adverse effects taking place, but if we do not do something, it will get worse. I'm a system protection engineer, and so I believe my experience and ability to deal with the network will come in handy in helping us not only understand, but also see where we come in, because all of us are stakeholders, not just the people sitting in this panel, but all of us in the room and even online. We are stakeholders in making the solutions and also giving suggestions for what has not even been thought about. Maybe you thought about it, and so you could let the discussion continue. I believe have more experienced people in the panel, but the specific topic of discussion today will push us to think outside the box. So even as you go on, that's my foundation, thinking outside the box.
I'm Engineer Kipkemai Kibias. I am a General Manager in charge of System Operation and Power Management at KETRACO. And I must say it's a privilege for me today to be here, and it's one of the most progressive webinars that will help us move to the future in the energy sector. It is one of those key things that we need to do as a country, where we meet the academia and the industry together, because solution to the climate change can only be achieved through technical interventions, and these are things that can be formulated in our Institute of Higher Learning. So I would like to thank the planners of this meeting, Professor Magoa and the team, for really thinking this meeting and planning for this webinar. The future we have for the energy sector in Kenya is that we are going to have an increase in infrastructure. We are looking for options that are going to provide the required energy demands. And for us to do that, we are diversifying into new ways, including, among others, the nuclear energy used for, that is purpose for the generation of electricity. That field also has its fair of safety concerns, and it is good that we are having this discussion at this particular time in the eve of such huge investment. I must say I'm also happy that as in charge of the infrastructure for KETRACO, climate effects are very dire to my directorate and my company. We have had issues in the past that have plunged this country into darkness, and it's because of adverse weather conditions. So I'm happy today to give my part of experience, having worked in the energy sector for the last 20 years. Just worked in KPLC for 19 years. I'm now doing my first year in KETRACO, and I think with that experience that spans all the way from planning, designing, and operation of the system, I have some experience that can improve the safety culture of this country, especially in the energy sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that round of introduction. Just to confirm, is there any of the panelists online? Who? EBK. Okay. So I think at this point I don't know if we'll be able to hear his voice. Can go ahead and get the introduction.